Yeah, I'll probably hang up. So
Okay.
it'll just be you and Jamie.
Okay. Okay, then.
Christy, I was going to have Gracie introduce you, and she has completely lost her voice. She
Oh,
has no sound.
no. Does she got a sickness, or is it just
Yeah.
from screaming at something?
No, it is just from Gracie screaming at something. Yeah.
I didn't
Not
think
really.
so. Has she been fangirling at a concert, or
At her book club.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Reading really loud.
A multi-interact.
Okay, does it look okay on the camera? Does mine look okay?
Yours looks great.
Yeah. You can move that dog bed in the background if you want. But you can leave it.
I wondered that too.
All right, Jay, I'm gonna hang up so
Okay.
the kids come in.
Okay. Thanks, Garth.
Thanks.
Love you. Good to see you, Christy.
Good to see you this morning.
Yeah.
We're live. Christy, we are so glad to have you here today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. You're so sweet. I'm excited. This is my first podcast ever.
Oh my goodness. Well, this is my second, so it's not like we're really deep into experience yet. But
I listen to a lot of podcasts,
oh,
mostly birth and come follow me podcasts.
yes, that's fabulous. So this will be the first podcast for JOYrific, and I'm having you on here because you were the beginning of my entering into motherhood, entering into puberty, entering into all the things that I've done in my life, and just have been really impactful to me. I'm like weepy. I'm like really excited about this.
I brought my tissues. I know.
Perfect.
I know. Yes.
I know. My box is right there, so actually I probably should get up and get them. But I have on your introduction, which Gracie's going to give the introduction. So, and me always being aware of other people. It may not be like first-time mothers. It may be anybody that's understanding their bodies. And
I am Grace Braithwaite, the oldest of the 7 Braithwaite children, and I am here to introduce our guest on the JOYrific podcast. Christy Hugh has been giving my mom advice since 1992, including monumentous events like shopping for her first bra. Jamie and Christy will discuss the beginnings of the journey while empowering women to know, trust, and understand their bodies. Through Labor of Love doula services, Christy provides one-on-one physical, emotional, and educational support to women during their pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum. Her goal is to educate, encourage, and empower women with love and compassion throughout their birth journey.
welcome, Christy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love what you added in because it's true. We have had really impactful moments. Like I think 2 ways, right? So
Aw.
not just you, not just me with you, but honestly, like you were this little angel helper that came along with, when I had young children, and you're just so energetic and so fun and creative. And that really helped, I think, pave the path even for my girls and the type of support they can be for other people.
Oh my goodness.
And
I gotta grab my tissue box.
you better grab the tissue box. I know. I had a tear streaming down my cheek as I was saying that. We know we're going to be leaking a lot. So it definitely was 2-way. And yeah, interesting that we're both sitting here now and there's no little kids. I mean, there kind of are some little kids, but yeah, just at a totally different place than where we were in literally like 1992 when I met you, and then 94, probably about when Connor was like 1 and you were coming to my house and helping and playing with him. So it's, learning.
It's amazing. Well, and I have Crystal that comes, and she is, that because we are 12 years apart, right?
Yeah.
And
I'm
her,
52. Yeah.
yeah, I'll be 40 in April.
Okay. Yeah.
And then she's 10 years younger as well. So it's really, and whenever I interact with Crystal, I think of all the times and how impactful. Oh man, how
Mm.
impactful you've been on my life. Yeah. Okay. So
You need a lot of support as a young woman and as a young mom. And I think each of those stages, you just really need community and support. And it's all kinds of support. It's not just somebody there that's like going to help you take out the trash. It's like this sisterhood, and it's like this generational sisterhood, whether it's when you're buying your first bra or when you're when you're raising your kids and you're out of your mind and your milk's leaking and your brain's fried because you've been pregnant and nursing for so long, right? So and then on to, like, honestly, Jamie, like, I'm looking, and you are too, like, we're looking at the end of life spectrum, right? Like, so it's that whole time and that support that we need. And I just think even at this age, and when I came into becoming a doula, what I really realized is women need other women, and we certainly need our partner, and we need, that love connection, but there's a different type of connection in sisterhood, right? In all those stages.
yeah. And now you're a grandma.
Now I'm a grandma. Yeah.
So
And I have an aging mother who's got dementia,
yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
But it's a beautiful circle. And it's so, like, that's what I think I figured out when I knew I was going to do this work. And I think always I've known, like, I wrote down that I had a spark of excitement in my heart. Like, my heart leapt with excitement when I knew this was what I was going to do. This was my calling. But that wasn't just a moment, right? Like, I feel like there's so many experiences leading up to that, including, the way I was molded when I was younger, the way I helped others, along the path, and the way others helped me, basically, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's how I feel about JOYrific, and
Yeah.
and doing this and helping other people to know that they're okay. It's really hard, and it's going to be a phase, and there'll be other times and seasons for all of the things that you're going through, and learning and growing through the phase that you're in at the moment.
Right.
And it's okay to cry, and it's okay to be exhausted, and it's not going to last forever.
Yeah, totally. It applies to so many things.
Oh, I know.
Being a teenager, being a young mom, being a mom of teenagers, you know what I mean? Like that whole road. So, and it's like, we just need so much grace along the way, and we really do need someone to tell us. And I think that's what I did for you. And I think that's what you're doing for Crystal. And that's what I'm doing for young mothers and I have done with my daughters and their friends, is like, I love you unconditionally. I just have so much love for you and compassion. Like, I just want you to feel that, like, somebody is in your corner rooting for you. Like, that is a nonstop, non-negotiable. It's never going to change. And that, to me, came from my mom, who at a pretty young age let me know, I was the youngest of three. And she let me know that no matter what I did, I could never break her love for me. There was not one thing I could choose, do, sin, misstep. Like, there was nothing I could do that would ever break her love for me. And that was huge, because I knew my friends didn't have that relationship with their mom. And so she was like, I've been through it. I've done this. I've been there. I can guarantee you I've done it 10 times worse. In some cases, maybe 100 times worse. So there's nothing you can say to me that's going to freak me out or change my love for you. Like, I'm just here for you. And that's my job as your mother. Like, I'm the one sitting in the seat to help you, like, in this path and on this journey. So whatever you need help with, I'm here. There's no better person. I mean, you think about it, the people in our lives, our mom and our dad, like, that love us the very most, right? So if you don't have that feeling of trust with them, who are you going to turn to when you need it? Or you're just going to feel alone, and that's really hard, to be on any of these different steps in our life alone. So,
oh my goodness. Okay, just talk more. Tell me more about how you did that, how you've come, like, what you've seen, what you've done.
Okay, let's see. Well, that definitely is the spark for me. And I think too, as the youngest, I kind of came a little bit more eyes open to what was ahead of me and what my parents were experiencing with my older siblings. And I wanted to make sure I was people pleasing, keeping the peace. Those were definitely my roles. So I think that's the place I come from. And we all come from a different place. Like our strengths are different. We'd be super boring if they were the same. So I think honestly, we just evolve and we keep grounded spiritually. And that's where I came from. I tried to, I never felt adequate, and I still don't feel adequate enough, but I had those people, including my mom, including like our relationship, even with your mom and dad, Jamie, like when Carl and I got married, I remember looking at them, and even just Carl's like sales pitch about your parents. That's a bad way to say it because it was a relationship, not like they were selling us something, but he was just like, oh, I can't wait for you to meet them, because his parents were not around. They were serving a mission at the time that we met. And so the next closest family member I had to meet of his was his Aunt Joy and Uncle Jim and their family. And so I remember him just saying like, no, you don't understand. Like these guys, this is the house that's fun to hang out at when you're a teenager. And they just hang out on a Saturday night, laying in the backyard on a hammock or mattress or whatever happened to be in the backyard at the time. And that would have had to have been winter in Las Vegas, but because you wouldn't hang out outside in any of those places anyway. But and when I walked into your home, it was like, oh, we love all kinds of music and we love all different types of people, and we just don't have these boundaries. And your parents are like the epitome of this, the generation of love, right? Like they were just free lovers and accepting everyone. That's kind of honestly where mine and your connection started. And that's a good place for us to start on here, is because, I married into the family. I already had a connection with your older brother through the youth program that he had attended, and I was a counselor at BYU, especially for youth. So it was so funny. I'd jump off the plane in Las Vegas to meet Carl's family, and I go, Jimmy, your older brother had been at EFY the summer before, and he might have been at more than one session. I can't remember, or he was just super impactful at the session I met him at. I know he said a prayer, and he was in a session that I was at that stood out to me. And then he was in the talent show as a dancer. So that's kind of a sidetrack, but it's so funny that, the first person I didn't notice my husband or future husband first. I noticed
his cousin,
Jimmy. So I was just like, already felt bonded and connected to your family and so loved and accepted, because I was from Indiana and I was, it was like my junior year of college. So I was still just kind of coming into my own skin and who I was. And I had a very solid relationship with Carl, and we'd only been, together for about 6 months, maybe. Yeah, probably 4 to 6 months, a very short time. But I knew really quickly that he was the one. And he knew too by the time we got married. Right. Anyway, so yeah, I love that connection was there immediately. And I know, let's talking about generations. It's cellularly, Jamie, like we are connected to our mother and our grandmother and our great grandmother because of what happens in the womb. Right. And because of because of our fertility. Your eggs are something that genetically are passed down. And that's why there's so many links to, cancers and things, but also on the other side to fertility. Right. And so, that's just something that I've learned more about becoming a doula, but it's just like, it's no mistake. Your mom and your family was like that. It's no mistake. Right. Like, because even at a cellular level, not just because, we were family and that's how we grew up and that was our nurturing that we received. But honestly, like we're connected, and you're connected to Crystal, and each of us are connected even on that cellular level. And I love that. I love that it's even deeper than just the family community. Right.
Yeah, I love that. And part of JOYrific talks a lot about how you behave is how you were taught or maybe not taught. And
right.
And my dad comes from a very different family dynamic than what my mom grew up with. And he has chosen to learn and develop these parental skills that he did not have growing up. And it's amazing how he is who he is. And his family does have an amazing connection, and they do love and they love. That truly is the best word, that there's a lot of family love, and how you can help develop that. And it's something that is teachable and learnable, and which I think is going back into your doula. Like, tell us more about how you take these young mothers and help them to be empowered by who they are and what they're doing.
Okay. Okay. So I have been able to help 6 moms, and I have 3 more coming up this summer.
Well, and plus I've had 7 babies, so
Okay.
you can add that
Right.
in.
I know. Okay. Yeah. As a trained doula, that's what right, specifically. But yeah, with my own daughter, yeah, I've had experience before that. But since I became a doula, I think when I have to encapsulate like what I do, you kind of had it in your intro for me, but what I'm doing is I'm like one-on-one, and that sounds like kind of textbook. I'm taking them by the hand. I'm holding them by the elbow, Jamie. I'm touching their shoulders. I'm touching their feet. I'm touching their back and their hips and and with many of them, it is a physical connection, but it's to empower them that they can trust their body. We've already gone through education. So part of my process is I do 2 or 3 prenatal visits, and I highly encourage and send them tons of podcasts to listen to and education courses, especially because most women want as natural of a childbirth as they can have. And I just honor and respect whatever type of birth they need to have for them. And I remind them, unfortunately, some things are out of our control. Birth is very much a lot of times out of our control, but to the best of my ability and to best of their capability, I will help them spiritually, emotionally, educationally, informationally to come to that place so that they can have the most, having a child is the most transformative event in our life of a woman. There is nothing that rocks our world more than that, right? Like, it is the most transformative. And for too long, I let somebody else determine how that was going to look and how it was going to go, because I didn't know any different, period. When I knew different, when I knew my epidural didn't take, I knew I had to figure out something else for my last birth. And I did. And I took matters into my own hands. I didn't turn it over to anyone else. And I felt very empowered in that. And I hypnobirthed my 4th baby here. I labored in the tub in the hospital before that was really even a thing. So I was honestly in a tub in a supply closet in the old Cedar City Hospital. I didn't need anyone around me. I wanted it to be me and quiet and dark and alone. And certainly my husband and my doctor and the nurses were checking in and things. But honestly, for the most part, it was me with my thoughts and my own empowerment in that room. And that's where I figured out that, it takes kind of bringing together all of those things, the spiritual, the physical, and the emotional, mental. It's not just a medical event that's happening. And that empowerment sets you up then to be empowered as a mom, right? And to be like, I'm in charge of my baby's health care. Nobody else is coming to my house to wipe this child's runny nose or to take their temperature, right? It's me. It's all on me. So I think that's where it was just so I don't know, kind of magical for me from that point when I was when I had Briella, I was probably 35, right? Or something, 30, sounds about right. 30 something, between 30 and 35. But it took me on that journey to kind of figure out that and to get to that point. And no one that I had really known had chosen natural birth without medication, especially in the hospital. And I didn't come from a line of women that did home births. So that was really foreign. But when McKenna came to that point, my oldest daughter came to that point during COVID, that was something she wanted to do. We had this choreography of conversation, because I didn't want to step on her toes, but I don't come from that. And I understand the desire of a woman to want a natural birth, but it took her explaining a lot of things to me and educating me how she wanted to do this and why she wanted to do this and because she wasn't a high-risk pregnancy, that a midwife would even talk to her. Because midwives aren't going to be able to help you. It's outside their scope of care if you are a high-risk pregnancy. Sorry, you won't be able to do a home birth, right? You'll be moving into a hospital birth. So that's something I think just in my understanding is oh, that makes sense. I guess midwives are really smart and they don't, they wouldn't want to risk that. So this is a really long answer and I'm kind of snaking through, but this is what brought me to this point is helping McKenna that day. And 2 a.m. we get the phone call. And at this point, I have not had anything in my mind about doula training. I knew what one was, but really only basically. But so basically on my way down to McKenna's, I'm just praying because I think we need some spiritual help and assistance through this process. It's different than anything I've ever experienced. And that's something that goes with me to every birth is I'm praying on the way usually because it's like, okay, come now, So that's when you start praying and that's another little trick and tip is you pray whenever. You don't have to be in a certain place or a certain position. Like, no, my prayer is probably most vital when I am like driving or something, for some reason, or early in the morning or in the shower. Okay. So I'm praying on the way down. And honestly, I was just like, my prayer was like, I don't want to do anything that could, like mess her up in this because like, she's really prepared for this. And so I don't want to interrupt it. I don't want to interrupt her vibe and her power. Right. I just want to be there to assist and to be nurturing. And honestly, the thought came to my head, I just want to be to her what my mom always is to me, which is like the perfect home. Like that hug from my mom, like that's always the perfect home. It's the perfect rush of oxytocin. That's why it feels so warm and so good. I know that now. It's a hormone release that I am so familiar with from in utero, right? Like I am familiar with my mom's love hormone because that's what wrapped me up. And so at that point in time, I'm driving through New Harmony, which is where my parents have lived the past 20 some years. And now my mom doesn't live there anymore. Lives with my sister in Indiana. So I was kind of sad because when Lewis was born, I picked up my mom at 2 a.m. on the way down to, and she was always fine to get a call at 2 a.m. So I was just kind of sad. I was like, oh, it's kind of sad because that was pretty special for my mom and I, something that we could do. And she wasn't super involved or hands-on when we went down to the hospital, but we were both there for McKenna, And so I was kind of sad and thinking about that as I'm driving to St. George. And the thought distinctly came to me, like, your mom is with you, like she's in you. And you are exactly to your daughter what your mom is to you. And you can't mess it up. And you're not going to, that's honestly what I was worried about. I was worried I was going to maybe mess it up or say something wrong or encourage the wrong way or use the wrong words. Cause I know it's like, you're really sensitive when you're in labor and you just need to be the right amount of everything. So that was really what I was praying for. And what I pray for when I go to all of my clients' births is that I'm the right amount of what they need, whether it's strength or spiritual or whatever type of support, that I'm the right amount. So I knew very distinctly in my head, like she's with you. Just because she's not in the car with you doesn't mean she's not with you. She's with you and you're taking that with you. I'm like, okay, good. That gave me so much comfort because again, then I could feel those hormones, from my mom's hug, like I could feel it going with me. I'm like, okay, that's what I want to give McKenna. Now I know I'll be that. So some other really great things happen and I have it written down in detail and I've given that to McKenna as part of her baby's birth story because my dad who had passed away, I felt like this instantly in my mind also on the way down to this birth was, I love you, Pumpkin. Tell McKenna, I love you, Pumpkin. And he'd always called my sister and I Pumpkin. And then he called my girls Pumpkin. And so I'm texting it to McKenna in between these prayers and thoughts, conversing with my dad. And I said, Grandpa Joe in voice text, because I'm driving. So I'm just voice texting. Grandpa Joe says to tell you, I love you, Pumpkin. And it went across perfectly. For one thing, my voice texts always have weird things, but it capitalized the word pumpkin and it didn't spell it out Pumpkin. It did Punkin. And I'm like, okay, well, just so you know, like grandpa's here. He loves you and he's with that baby. And like I just knew there was this multi-generational connection around this special, time. And so once I got down there, I was being helped how I could. And at one point I laid my head down on McKenna's hips because she was kind of tired and she kind of had a pause in her labor. And she's like, I'm just going to sleep because I feel like once I get up and get moving, things are going to happen kind of fast. And Skylar was really tired. They'd already been up basically all night. And so he lay down in the chair because I'm there now and I can get her whatever she needs, her drink or a little bite of food or something. And if anything happens, I'll wake him up. And we were all in the same room and I'm just laying my head on her hips because she just, excuse me, during each contraction needed to feel touch. And that's really common and I think the reason why no one's ever taught me this, but this is my own feeling, is that that touch helps transfer that energy, right? I mean, that contraction is it's the biggest muscle in your body. It's working and it's working hard. And it's not like as much pain, but there is definitely some pain associated with it. But if someone's touching you, it kind of helps transfer that pain energy to them too. And they're carrying it with you. You're not doing alone. You know, you're not alone. There's somebody right there. So she really just wanted and needed somebody to be touching her, holding her hand during each contraction. So as she's sleeping and those contractions are kind of going away, I just laid my head on her hips. And at one point I lifted my head up and she goes, "Oh, no, keep doing whatever you're doing." And I was like, I just laid my head down on her hips. I mean, on her backside was towards me and I'm just laying my head. And she's like, "That pressure on my hips feels so good." And so now I know as a doula, like counter pressure on women's hips on their pelvic bone is really helpful. So helpful. It's one of the main things you can do for a woman in natural birth is to help with counter pressure either on her hips or just above them or on her sacrum, on her backbone, or her tailbone. Sorry. I mean, it's because all those bones are shifting and moving right for the baby to do their little dance to come through. And so it was just helpful. I had no idea that just is what I was doing. Later on, probably once she woke up and she was still in the bed because she knew if she got up, things were going to change. So she was just trying to find positions in the bed that were comfortable. And Sky was still kind of resting. And I think he was setting up the birth pool. And her feet kind of started getting antsy in the bed and they were pushing the covers at one point. So I fisted up my hands and just pushed them under her feet. And she's like, oh, that feels good. And she told me, when the contraction was over, she goes, I looked down. I'm like, how did you know how to do that? And I was like, well, your feet were just flailing and they needed support. I could tell. And they needed, pressure. And our feet are a big counter pressure point as well. Right. I wasn't thinking of that. I just saw a need and tried to fill in. And so those were just a couple of times that I feel like there were, it was just building on what was going to happen. And so ultimately, though, the midwife got there. She had her baby. I got there at about 3 a.m. Her midwife came and the baby was born by like 7:30 a.m, I think, around there. So it wasn't a long amount of time, but enough to see like this beautiful process and her work and her energy and her determination like come into its power. Like there really is no other time in your life that this transformation of power from like what you want and what you end up with, right? Like she manifested it and she was able to achieve that. And later in that day, I was holding Kayla in my arms in the rocking chair in a room, like my daughter's there. And we're just, it's just this bask of birth, right? This golden light. It was just beautiful. And the distinct thought just came to me, this is your work. And I was like, it is? And I hadn't said anything yet. I was like, you can help women do this. Like this doesn't have to be the last time. You can help your daughters, but there's obviously training. There's something more to this that you can do to learn to help women. And but this is your work. I'm like, I was like so excited. I told McKenna right then, and she said, well, the lady I took my Bradley birth class from teaches doula training too, but she only does it like twice a year. I've seen it come up on her Instagram. I'll have to let me see when it is. And the more that thought just kept going, and McKenna knew exactly who I was going to train with. And she pulled it up. She's like, her training's next month. That's perfect. How much does it cost? Oh, perfect. She goes, well, though, you need to talk to Dad. I'm like, oh no, like, I know, like, I don't want to lose a spot in this lady's class. If she has a class open next month and she's training, like, I have to be in it. Like, that was the pull, like, so strong. Like, I knew I needed to be in it. And I mean, I had a full-time job I was working at the time. I was very happy in, but I figured this is something I can do and still have my job, I would think, and I have some flexibility in my job. So, but that really didn't matter. It was honestly just this freight train thought that came through that's like, this is what you're doing. And I was so excited. I couldn't wait to just like grab on and go. So the timeline was the baby was born in January and I trained in February. I gave my 2 weeks notice in March. And the hospitals opened up at the end of March so that I could go do my clinical hours, which was I needed to shadow births with my trainer or with another advanced doula, someone who had several years of experience. She called me in March and said, hey, I have 2 births in Cedar. Can you be my shadow? And I said, yeah. She said, what's your work schedule? I said, tomorrow is my last day.
Oh my
She goes, well, the hospitals just opened up. She said this week. They had literally opened up like the 3rd week of March. Okay, so I was able to, over the next 2 weeks, do my shadow hours and get to see and experience exactly what she does, hands-on, how she nurtures mothers and what she does and how her demeanor is to keep things calm and to be an advocate, but to do it in just this really calm and caring way, with the mom, with the dad, with the grandparents, with the nurses, with the doctor. Like, it was just so empowering to watch somebody do that. And she's not taking charge of anything. If the woman is in charge, she's following her, but you're just this calm presence that can reassure through every fear and unknown of childbirth, right? Because no matter how many times you've done it, there are still going to be those. And so I had my first client in April. So that was a pretty specific timeline. And the girl that hired me said she had already talked to 2 other doulas, but she didn't feel good about either of them. And her mom said, well, this friend of mine that I know, I mean, we're mostly online friends, but we've known each other for a long time. And I knew her daughter. She's like, she's training. You need to talk to her. And all we did was speak over the phone. And then she and her husband came to my house and we visited. And she's like, I for sure want you. Like, yeah, this is what I want. And I tell all my clients, like, that's what you need to feel, because I'm not doing this as a job. I'm doing this just to help. So if I'm not the one that feels right for you, you should find that person. You're not going to hurt my feelings, because if I'm not the right person for you, then it doesn't make sense to have me there, right? It needs to be somebody you're comfortable with. And it's a very vulnerable and real time having a child. Like, it's very vulnerable. And so we discuss a lot of things like past trauma, emotional stuff, because that all gets brought up and needs to be worked through, but it can be. And if you have somebody there that is like, oh, you can do this. And that's the first thing I do with each of my clients is I put my hand on their arm. I have to physically touch them and see, because it's kind of a two-way street, right? I need to feel it back from them. And some it's more than others, but just put my hand on their arm and say, you can absolutely trust your body, and whatever is supposed to happen will happen. And I will be there for you with whatever type of birth you need. Like, I am not judging you on anything, because my job is to support whatever you need. And if things change, I'm there to support you through the change and the unknowns of the change. But that's my job. And we are not told as women enough to trust our body, to trust our instinct, because that's the main thing I want women to understand is, like, as a mom, you get this awesome gift and power called your instinct and your gut instinct, and you need to follow that. Again, it's not me raising your child once they're born. It's not the pediatrician, it's you and your instinct. And going off of that is the most powerful tool you have by far. You can gain all this information and you can listen to everyone and you can get all these great pro tips, but ultimately, what is your gut telling you? And it needs to be that way in birth, and it needs to be that way as you raise your child. So that is how I got to do this job. And like, yeah, it's not a job. It's a calling. It's a passion. It's something I know that I've been like trained up for. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Christy. Oh man, I am really weepy. All the things you are saying are so truthful and can get applied to so many aspects of your life, right? Like I've had 7 babies, which is a lot. Right. And each one of them has been different. And you, the first baby to the 7th baby, I learned my body so much differently. And as I'm doing JOYrific, and I mean, I've had 7 toddlers. I've had the experience that I've been able to have from the first to the last. You just become empowered by that instinct, and not only that instinct, but somebody supporting you and helping you through it. Like, that is an important part, with no judgment, and how it's hard. It is hard. And the past trauma, let's talk a little bit about how because everybody has baggage and everybody has past trauma, and how do you help with that? What's some coping skills or some advice for people who are in that birthing process, or even in the teenage process, right, or even in the grandkid process? Like, talk about a little bit about past trauma, how you can work through that, talk through that.
Okay. Well, a big part of being able to achieve our goals at any time, whether you're going in to take a test or you're going in to have a baby is preparation, right? And so if I walk into a test, I heard this in a podcast, so I'm going to totally use it. If I walk into a test unprepared, I'm panicked. My hands are sweaty. I'm fidgety. I'm a little sick to my stomach. I'm burning. Like I can't, you can't focus if I'm not prepared. I mean, we know, and it comes out in every way, spiritually, physically, we can't sleep, right? We're nauseous. But if we're prepared and we walk into that test, oh my word, you can feel the confidence, and you can feel the calm, and you can feel that parasympathetic nervous system because you're able to breathe. You aren't hyperventilating. You aren't in this fight or flight, right? It's not those hormones working. It's the confident and you don't have the adrenaline and the cortisol. Those are the stress hormones. You have, calm things happening. So that's the very first thing. So regardless of if you've had past trauma or not, understanding that information and being prepared is going to change the setting in that room, whether you're taking a test, going in for a cancer diagnosis, or having a child. So it really does span all of it. And that education and information will bring you so much peace and confidence. And that's really where McKenna is, and where she was, and how she taught me was through her education. I mean, she didn't take this lightly. She signed up for this 8-week course, 2 hours each class, very in-depth. I mean, Dr. Bradley's method is the tried and true natural childbirth method, and it's the foundation for every other method that I'm aware of. I mean, he lays it out. He did extensive study, and now that's what's being taught. But it takes some going outside of just scrolling on Instagram to gain that information. And so I think you have to take it seriously. And the next part is what you said, I think, and that's somebody with you, non-judgmental, holding that space for you, right? So I let moms know right up front, I'm not judging you, whatever you have been through. And it's so, the mom that I have felt the closest emotional connection to had been through the most, and had a lot of trauma, and had a miscarriage recently, and she had an abortion, and she had some really strong feelings about not wanting to be a mother early in her life. And now she's this woman who is thinking in a different direction and has come to this place in her journey. And I mean, honestly, every time we touch, we both just wept, because you just need somebody there to hold that space with you, and to put your hand on their arm or on their back or on their shoulder, or touch their hair, and to say, like, you're okay. It's okay. I understand you've been through something hard. And I can't imagine what you've been through, because I hadn't been through either of those things, but I knew that meant, like, she needed my strength even more. And the love connection with her husband was extremely important. And it was beautiful to witness, because he was so attentive to her. But in addition, and a lot of us do, we need more. I need some more. Some of us need 4 sisters and a mom and a doula and the husband. And I've been at births like that. And some need several midwives and their husband and their sister and their doula, right? And our needs are different, and they're different at different times. And so I think whatever that trauma is, like, understanding, like, you can let it go. You can set it down, and you can come over here, and we're leaving it in the past. And we're not existing there, but where we are existing is a place that we, like, honor whatever you've been through. And I think that's what I learned, because I seriously just had the purest love for this woman, and who'd made decisions and who'd been through things I'd never been through. But it is possible. I think that's compassion. I really do. I think it's that, because I'm not a counselor, and I couldn't do any deep counseling with this person to let it go. But ultimately, her knowing that she has these people in her corner that are her strength, you know what I mean? And that believe in her and are supporting her, along with being prepared. And part of that being prepared was, like, I go into a lot of relaxation things, but it's kind of what you identify with, because I can't push my hypnobirth technique on somebody if they don't identify with that. For them, it might just be breathing. And one client said she was talking to her aunt and uncle about natural birth, and her uncle is the one that told her, just go to your happy place. That's what you have to do in birth. Like, you're in here. And he's right. Birth happens between the ears more than between the legs. It happens. It's a mindset, and coming to a positive mindset, and the place that you can let go and you can surrender, which is really hard. I mean, we want to go here. Like, no, don't hurt me, right? That's the protection, whether it's trauma or birth or whatever. Like, you want to be in here, but what it takes is surrendering and allowing others to come in close to you and to help spread that energy and to feel their support. And we don't get very far in birth when we tense up. When you tense up against a contraction, you know that, Jamie. I mean, you have to relax. You have to surrender, and you have to breathe. And I mean, those are like my words I give my grandkids, even if they're having a tantrum or a moment. It's like, okay, I know. And sometimes, even like, touching them, not grabbing them, but touching them, right? That helps release some of it. And then talking to them. And if you're touching them, I was talking to this girl who's had EMT training. She said, that's one of the first things we do when we come on scene. If you notice someone in distress, if you hold their hand, we were taught that helps them match your breath. It helps them match your heartbeat. And a lot of times you come on a scene as an EMT and everything's elevated, right? Or maybe they're going downhill and we need to bring their heart rate up. And she said, that's what we're taught, is we hold their hand. I'm like, aha, that's it. There's an important thing. Anyway,
that's awesome.
That's what I do.
I never have heard that. And through all my childbirths, I needed Garth's touch, and I would say it and he would come and touch me and hold me or wherever it was. And I mean, that is powerful.
Isn't it interesting that like we're allowed to ask for that in childbirth, but we hardly ever ask for it any other time?
Oh yeah, that is true.
I mean, we're feeling it and yucky, and we just need a hug, and we just need a hand to hold, and we don't want any strings attached, and we don't ask for it. I mean, childbirth, we definitely can and do, and I feel like we're culturally brought to the point that we can, but in life, we aren't as much. We're expected to kind of have that tough.
Yeah.
Shell.
I will, that Garth is very touchable. I don't know if that's the right word, but he gathers our kids, and they hang on him so much. And I'm like, ugh, get off of me, right? Like, I mean, I love you, but I kind of have a bigger bubble. And especially when I was pregnant, I have a big bubble when I'm pregnant. I have a lot of kids, and Garth has been able to be that person that they can cuddle and hold on to. And one of my kids, he's tough, and Garth lets him hang all over him, and he needs that touch. And Garth will say to me, it's fine, let him do it. Like, if he needs to rub my bald head, and that soothes him, then let him do it. And I think you are so patient and wonderful, and I'm so glad I'm married to you.
Totally. You can see. Yeah. And it's okay. And we need someone to tell us it's okay to have a bigger bubble, right? Like, their overstimulation is a thing. It is. And having overstimulate is as bad as none, right? Is not getting enough. So either end of that spectrum. And so I'm always I've witnessed, and so I am what I've witnessed, but I witnessed other women being so respectful to women. Like, would you be okay with some gentle touch? Do you want, you know what I mean? Like, are you feeling like some touch? Because women in labor, it's the same thing. And it's really a roller coaster, because sometimes you're hot and you need a fan and don't touch me. And sometimes you're freezing cold and you need warm blankets and someone to give you a foot rub or hold your hands,
within the same 20 minutes.
For sure. That's transition of labor. It's generally that, but you're right. Yeah. It's a roller coaster all the way through. And so I always ask, does that sound good? Do you want me to give you some pressure, some counter pressure? Does that sound good? And I've watched and witnessed midwives ask at home births and really be emotionally connected to their patient, which is such a good, it's just good experience for me to see that, because I think that we all deserve that no matter what we're going through, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about toddlers and teenagers, because you've had a lot of experience with that. So take the doula-ness that you have and see if you can help. Because there's mothers, the birthing happens, and then you have this human that you are with. Expound on that.
Okay, McKenna would be really good to answer this right now, because she's just in the throes of it, right? With 3 under the age of 6 and feeling like you've lost your identity and you don't even know who you are anymore, but you're nursing a baby and you have a daughter in dance and a son in school. And yeah, it is. You kind of lose your identity and lose who you are. And I don't have any specific words of wisdom. I mean, I can tell you though, it just translates. Like I talked to my daughter a lot and I needed that a lot. I remember Carl would come home and like, how long were you on the phone? I mean, this was when long distance calls cost money. And I would get on the phone with my mom or my sister during those long days. I needed that. That was part of solidifying my identity outside of being the lady with the milk, or the mac and cheese or whatever, And so I think that grounding is really important. So whatever you can do to stay grounded. And I know movement was really important for me and being outside was really important for me. So I usually combine those by like going on walks or, something. But staying grounded. And it was community. We had a group that met at the church and we would scrapbook and our kids would play in the nursery. And so once a week we had a place that we could go to feel normal and to talk to an adult. And it wasn't a long distance call and it was community. And we helped each other and we solved each other's problems. And more than anything, I think we just, chatted and let our kids play. And I always gravitated towards that, no matter what age my kids were, whether it was setting up that plastic pool in my friend's front yard and us moms all sitting in the garage with our feet in the sun, our legs in the sun, because we wanted to get a little tan on our legs, but we didn't want to be. And we could just kind of have our own little space. But I can honestly look back through my life and see these little communities of moms that I gravitated toward and choosing and making time. And I think that's something that's a little more lost today, right? Because everything's on our computer and our connections are a lot of the times on our computer and our work's on our computer. And so I think staying grounded and, finding those outs, whatever they are. But for a young mom specifically, I think it's really important to figure out your grounding. And I think movement and being outside and connecting with others are probably, yeah. And by movement, it could be yoga, it could be walking, it could be something that gets your brain out of the everyday soup and into like your own, pattern of thinking. And I think, having your church community and your friend community, and your family, right? I think that all of those help. So that's kind of a general answer, but that's how I did it. And I know even my daughter does, what's that cool app that you guys use where you send videos to each
Marco
other?
Polo.
Marco Polos with her girlfriends from up north, because she had a really tight friend group up there that are all in the similar situation. So that's what they do, is they Marco Polo each other. And she can pull that up when she has a few minutes during the day and like, okay, I'm human, I'm normal, So it maybe looks a little different now than it did when I was raising kids, but there's ways to do it. And it's really important, or else I think you start getting really resentful of your kids and of your spouse and of your situation.
Yeah. I do red chairs. So I have these red chairs that are out in my front yard, and we're in a cul-de-sac, and I sit out in a red chair and in the sun and just feel the sun. And I'll have an empty red chair next to me. And I just start texting people, because so much of us you're just not driving by anymore to see people out. And
right. You hardly ever see people out.
Yeah. And so I have to be proactive in knowing that I need that connection. I need to be outside. I need to chat, and I process by talking, and I don't need to hear them. I don't need them to solve my problem. I'm not there to solve their problem. I just need to talk about it. And sometimes I just need to sit, and that's okay. And like, it depends on who you bring into your red chairs. And sometimes I'm the one that needs to be supported. Sometimes they're the one that needs to be supported. And different times in your life, you're everybody's at a different time. And sometimes it's internal. Like when you're pregnant, it's obvious. And like, okay, she needs to sit and rest, or she needs to do something. If you have a broken leg, it's obvious. But a lot of these things are in our head or in our heart, and you don't know those that are injured and hurting and needing support and love.
For sure. I love that idea with the red chairs and texting people to come over and just gathering up some sun.
Yeah. And I'll send a picture of an empty red chair. Like, I don't even have to say anything now. They just know that, like, red chairs is this thing. And I've actually talked with my teenagers because I've done it we've been in this cul-de-sac for 9 years now. So, and I've had these red chairs. Well, they get sun rot and I buy new ones, but these red chairs have just been this thing. And so it's interesting. So Gracie's 18. So I started this when she was 9, and she has said, and I should get her perspective on it. Maybe I will. And, but she has said, we observed you guys in the red chairs because they were just playing in the cul-de-sac and they were riding their bikes or playing with chalk or doing whatever they were doing. But they could see, like, I was getting my bucket filled by talking in the red chairs, and they were playing with their friends because a mom would come over or a neighbor or whoever it was with more kids. And they would sit and gather around us and not necessarily be a part of it, but be a part of it and seeing the community that was being built and those. And she has said, we loved it when you red chair because it made a difference in our lives. And I don't know, it's a beautiful thing, building that community. And it doesn't just come. You have to build it, and just like proactive. Yeah. Which can be hard.
And your Taco Tuesday, that's a proactive choice to have community and to be an outlet. And you're right. You're a nicer, better mom when you have an outlet. Right?
Yes.
So Gracie's saying that it made a difference or it affected her. I mean, it was that spark, that excitement in her. Oh, it's red chair time. Okay, mom's on her reset. Like I'm sure she didn't think those things consciously, but she knew things, this was going to be fun. This was going to be good. This was a good thing. I mean, for a kid at 9 to see that moms need that, like, yeah.
And what's really fun now, because now they're into teenagers, I can red chair with them. Right. And it's really fun to see. And sometimes, sometimes we have really deep conversations in the red chairs. Sometimes we just sit next to each other and it's nothing. And not that it's nothing. There's nothing vocally said, but we're just there. And that bond and that connection it is powerful.
Yeah.
It is powerful.
Sweet. I love that.
Oh, well, I probably learned it from you. You with your red chairs, but maybe there were folding chairs in the garage and the pool. And I was there as a teenager and you were there with your moms. And that generational, it is generational. And you can learn, if you don't have it in your family, you can learn it from others. And that's something that my mom talked about because she came from alcoholism in her family when she was growing up. And they did have a bond, but there were times where they were drinking and there was not support that she needed. And so when she was first married, that somebody, I don't remember, I'll have to get the story from her, but somebody said, if you don't have that example, look to someone that does that and find those traits that you want to be like and strive to be like and do that and figure out what it is and practice that in your life. And which I think she's done and I've done, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And I think we're drawn to it, right? When we're separated out and we can see the difference of us from others, then I think that's when Heavenly Father does his work with us, because sometimes we do feel a little isolated, and how my family is not like that family, right? And I feel the same way, Jamie. Like my mom took, at 8 years old, my life looked very different than her life at 8 years old. So they improve on the generation, right? I mean, and my mom had a lot of great support when she was a young mom. She had a sorority group. She wasn't active in the church. Church had only been kind of here and there in her life growing up, mostly there, not here. She had been baptized, but not a whole lot of follow-up after that. And the fact that she chose as a young mom to take 3 children by the hand and to walk into a church that she hadn't set foot in for a lot of years because she wanted something better for her children than she had. I mean, that's what your mom was doing, right? Her childhood did not look the same as your childhood. And so anyway, and I think, if we aren't talking about it and looking for it and connecting to those signs that are saying, I want something different, we can miss it. So you have to be proactive, and you have to be having these talks and chats. And I think that's why podcasts are so powerful right now, even though, I mean, we feel so connected, but it's also, it's bringing us closer to maybe where we want to be. That's what I said. I'm listening to birth podcasts and Christ podcasts. That's what I'm trying to be closer to. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Oh, Christy, you are a wealth of knowledge. I have learned so much from you over so many of these years. And it makes me weepy. It just really does. And I hope that everybody finds somebody that they can get support from. And you've done that. And all right, now let's talk about teenage years, because there are some things that like my mom and I's relationship as a teenager was very different than what I observed you and your teenage girls. So maybe talk about that, because I know that you've taught me so many things, but try and, I don't know, sum it up.
Okay, I'll try to sum it up. I think it comes from Jamie being told as a teen by my mom that I couldn't do anything to change her love for her. So both that is the basis, because I was a teenager and I had done some stupid things. I'd made some mistakes and I knew they were wrong, but this is part of the, figuring out life as a teenager. And I knew I could disappoint her, but I knew it wouldn't change her love for me. And so with my kids, and I think my girls especially, is what I was focused more on. And I think my husband focused more on our sons, as teenagers, but with my daughters specifically, and even with some of their friends, like, again, like, your body and your feelings are nothing to be ashamed of. And I do not judge you, because I've been there too. And I've had feelings that I have to work through. And I just don't ever want my daughters or their friends or my sons. And I have had some of these chats with my sons that are a little deeper. Like, I just don't ever want you to be ashamed of your thoughts or your feelings or I don't, because they're there for a reason, and Heavenly Father gives us those, but let's go through them and make sure we're kind of on the right path with them. Like, I remember, a lot of what I was taught in church, I think, and just culturally in my religion was, sex isn't, you have to wait. And I won't say that I was taught sex was bad, because I don't remember ever being taught that. And what was ingrained in my head and what I taught to my children is that there's a time and a place for it. But that doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean those feelings are bad. That doesn't mean exploring differences around those feelings are bad, because you're going to have them. And so to sweep them under the rug is to invalidate them, or to say what you're feeling is wrong. And it's not, because I'm positive Heavenly Father gave us those feelings for a reason. And so, that's what I taught my daughters. So if you're attracted to a boy and you're having these feelings, we're going to talk about it. And we talked about it in depth. And I did everything from things I felt like I maybe missed out on a little, and now I'm educated, like even just the process of, as like puberty, washing, because I was like, like, I wanted my kids to know it's okay to touch those areas because they need to be clean. And this sounds really funny, but I was never taught that. I was just never taught that, like, I get like, there's discharge and there's things going on down there as a woman, as your body changes, and you need to make sure it's clean. And that's it. And you can talk to me. And if there's something you're wondering about, you should talk to me. Because I remember wondering about things, physical changes in my body and physical changes that were appearing. And I'm like, I was definitely embarrassed. I didn't know at that young age that I could talk to my mom, when things were happening at like 11 and 12. As I got older, I understood I could. But so I think being really real and just talking to them about that. And I have to be that with my clients. Like, and one of the things I do with my clients is I do a foot massage. That was a gift someone gave me as a young mother, one of my friends. And I just thought it was like this beautiful Christ-like act of service to take a woman who's pregnant and feet are so tired and swollen and, painful, to take them and wash them in water and then to rub them. And anyway, it's beautiful. So that's something that I do as part of feeling comfortable with each other too. Like, you're going to need to be comfortable with my touch. And if there's something I'm doing while I'm rubbing your feet that isn't comfortable, you need to be able to tell me. So let's practice, just tell me, is this comfortable? And, that I don't like it there. No, don't get between my toes. Or, oh yeah, right there. That feels so good. Like, the reason I practice that with them before we get in the labor birth and labor situation is because that communication needs to be open. And I think flexing that muscle with your teenagers, the conversation needs to be open. So you got to go there and you got to, and feel like you can talk to me. And anyway, so yeah, there were a lot of times even, teaching how to put a tampon in or being right outside the door. And then them just saying, just come in and help me. Because I can't, and it is, our bodies are kind of a mystery, especially as teenagers, and our thoughts and our feelings are, but how we remove that mystery is just like walking in to take the test. The more information, the better. And they don't always want to talk. So I tried to do some things with my girls specifically. My older daughter, we had 2 little kids at home that always wanted my attention. And so when she was into this stage where she needed her mom more, the little kids, seemed to always interrupt. And so I told her, well, if you need to talk to me privately down in your room and you don't want to say that because you don't want to announce it to the house, you can say, Mom, can you help me pick out an outfit? Because there was always a
cue word.
Oh, yeah, that was it. That was our cue word. And so I would go down and sit on the bed. And sometimes I would go down for those talks when she didn't ask for them. I could just sense that we needed it. I either felt tension between us because there's that, because she's coming into becoming a woman and I'm a woman. And not that there was competition, but there's definitely an overlap of kind of energy for women, I think. And so sometimes I'd just go sit in her room or make her come up and sit on my bed until she was ready to talk about whatever it was, or that I could bring up in a way that, whatever it was, I felt like we needed to talk about. And usually it was, something she had done that she hadn't talked to me about, but I had a sense that it had happened. And I wanted her to feel like she could talk to me about it. And the only way to do that is to talk. I don't know. Anyway, Jamie.
We call it QT time, and there's other people that call it mind, body, soul time, and there's all this kind of stuff. And I watched you do this. I mean, I'm definitely a part, which I didn't do with my mom. It was different, and I was an only girl. We just didn't have that connection, which is part of why I created JOYrific, is because her and I went through hard teenage years. We healed as I got into my 20s, and I had Garth, and I was getting regular sleep, and I was getting attention that I needed, and a lot that caution sign that's on the JOYrific chart. And I did a lot of healing through my early 20s. And so now that connection, so me and my kids call it QT time, and we set a timer, and so I need to talk to you about an outfit. They're able to say, I need QT time with you. And it's this private, just us. Nobody can interrupt. We lock the doors if we need to, because we have a lot of toddlers running around that always need your attention. And we set the timer, and oftentimes it goes beyond the timer once they're 15. I mean, once they're over 10 even. And the timer's there partly because there's not endless time. And I need to have time too, to myself, and dinner has to be made and all the things have to be done. But by consistently timing and having it there, and we try and do it every day, and we label it as QT time so that they know that this is when we can have those deep conversations. And building that relationship from when they're really little it pays off by investing when they're little, and you do QT time with them for 5 minutes because they're 5 years old, and we set the timer and they recognize and understand, I don't have my phone. I'm not scrolling through Facebook. I am 100% focused on them, and we're playing Go Fish or whatever it is.
Undivided attention.
Yes.
Leaving space for just them in a chaotic world, in a chaotic whatever, right?
Yeah. And you can feel, we have a household of 9, and you can feel lonely being surrounded by people. And having a deep connection is important. And it's something that takes time to build. And that's beautiful. I love that you guys went and picked out outfits or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was it. That was the key word. Yeah. Yeah. And even I can tell you, I mean, I'm a pretty strong personality. And so
as am I.
And so my girls have had to tell me as they get older and as I have something to share with them and I'm really getting into it or something like it's okay and they're okay to tell me. And sometimes I need to be told like that's maybe too much information for me, or let's tap the brakes on that. You know what I mean? Because I'm just willing and ready to be as open as we need to be. And maybe a little bit from your situation, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think our parents' generation just wasn't as open, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just great to respect all sides of it too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to flood them with my private time with them, but I'd rather do that than not have enough, I think, is where I would rather err on that side. And the other thing too, Jamie, I just learned about is this great, I need to send you the talk, but it's called Never Let a Faith Crisis Go to Waste by Jared Halverson. Never let a good faith crisis go to waste. So not that we're talking about faith crises, but we are talking about kind of crises maybe. And so what he taught in that is this really simple principle that is taught in the Bible, and it's the fall, or excuse me, it's creation. It's like what every day might look like, right? It's there's a pattern for it in the Bible. Creation as like things are beautiful, things are blossoming, right? There's animals, there's creation. And then the next part in that cycle is the fall. Because after every beautiful creation, things come down. They naturally do. That's nature. That's what happens. And then there's atonement. And you can use that pattern for like relationships. You can use them in relationship with your husband, with your children, with the day, with every day. Because every day when you wake up, it's like, oh, creation. And maybe by 5 p.m, it's the fall. You're going to bed and saying your prayers, and it's atonement. And you're humbled, and you're asking, and you're needing, and you're begging, and you're pleading, and right. And so, like I had an experience in counseling. My husband and I did counseling a few years ago because it was when our kids had left, and these lanes that were really clearly defined for us raising children they just weren't as defined, and it was hard on our relationship to kind of figure out what our roles were. And so I wished at the time, looking back, that the counselor would have just said, oh, just wait, you're just in the fall of your relationship, like atonement's coming, and look for atonement moments, because it creates again, I promise. And you don't realize it, but you've done this pattern a bunch of times. And he validated what we were going through, and he helped us in a lot of ways. But something I wish would have been said was that, like, oh, just wait, like, just give it, it's okay. And so I think that applies with our teenagers really a lot, because sometimes you're in the fall and they're not ready, and you can't pull somebody from one phase into the next. You can go there, and you can choose to go there, and you can understand that there's all of those 3 places, but you can't bring somebody else there. But you might not get along really well with people in creation phase if you're in fall. They might really annoy you because they're just so chipper and excited and moving and growing and loving and learning. And you're in the depressed part. You're in the, I don't like this. I don't like me. I don't like you. Right? Like, but for them to understand you're not going to be here, and to hold the space for them, like, here's what's coming up next. Here's what's coming up next for your marriage. Here's what's coming up next for your teenage crisis. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think right along with that, because I am a strong personality that likes to talk and likes to answer and solve the problem, I have learned to count. I mean, I just have to actively do something, or else my brain will just wander and I won't listen anymore if they're in that fall. Because that fall state is a really hard state for me to witness and be a part of, because I can solve it and I can see the atonement. Like it's coming. And I have learned, and which probably Garth has taught me because he is so patient. But I count and I count to 90. And I've never gotten to 90, but that's my goal of, I'm going to sit and keep eye contact and keep listening to this conversation that's awkward and hard, and I know is not going to be their eternal state. And I'll count to 90 in my head. And by that time, it allows them to process, and it allows me to listen. And it's an active choice that I've made and usually I get to like 17 or something. Like I don't make it to 90, but I have learned that I have to do that in order to let them process. And which maybe Garth counts sometimes when I tell him stories. I don't know. But I really have made a lot of progress with my kids. And maybe it's because I wanted my mom to listen and she never would, because she's quick to interrupt or quick to solve or quick to get you on the right place, which is beautiful. And you need that when you need that. But like you said, in that fall state, you don't really need that. You need someone to listen. And so that's a skill that I have learned and developed, is counting, actively listening, and helping them to process is okay. And yeah, it's hard. It is hard.
It is hard. And yeah, good. I love that. Because we all need to listen more, right? And you're right. It means without our phone. It means without distractions. It means like you really are available, but only when you're ready and when you need to. Like, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And if you have some thoughts or some things you think might help move you forward, bounce them off me. Let me know, but yeah, sometimes you just have to be patient and listen. So, I don't know how tangible that was, but that's helping me. It's helping me now. I mean, it's helping me with literally like every relationship, because, you're just not stuck. And to know that you're not stuck there, and to know even in childbirth, you're not stuck in that worst part where you say, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I mean, when you're natural, when you're choosing unmedicated birth and you say that, like I discuss with women, we need to put in your birth plan how much you want me to talk you out of that, because you're going to say it. And to be honest, that's when mom is born. If you've had no children, the mother is born when you move just past that place. Just past that place where you say, I can't do this anymore. It's too much. I'm done. I'm throwing in the towel. Bring that epidural in. I don't care if I'm a 9.5. Like that's when the mom is born, because then she comes into this power where she's like, oh no, I got this. I mean, let's do it. I'm ready. And it's a lot of chemical processes in your body that are happening. And I love seeing that moment when the mother overcomes that, when the child and the teenager overcomes, like, never, I got this, and I just think you're born into this new power and you're leveling up right then. And it happens with each child, and it happens with each downfall you overcome, right? It's just so it's really tangible for me to see with moms when they're giving birth, because midwives will tell you every mother says that. I mean, that's how I know we're close, is when moms say, I'm done, take me to the hospital, right? If you're doing a home birth or whatever, get out the drugs, that's how I know we're close. And so I let women know that that's all part of that plan. And I think it's so much easier for them to then move through it when they know it beforehand. And even talking to your teenager, when they know, I felt that, like I have been there, and I can tell you move past it. And even in relationships with our children, like you talked about with your mom, and how you healed in your early 20s. Yeah, once our kids get married, they need us again. As teenagers, they don't need us as much as we want them to need us. But I had great advice that someone told me, oh, wait till she's married and has children. She'll need you. I mean, and I never felt like unneeded by McKenna, but there was a time when she was first married and when she was dating serious, like I knew I needed to be hands off. This isn't my choice. It's hers. And she has to walk through it. And I'm here supporting her, but I got to back off. And I tried to listen to those promptings when to back off, right? And constrain my motherly instincts, So I tried to listen, and like, I didn't call her once on our honeymoon, Jamie. That's pretty good.
That's a lot. Oh my goodness. I love it. That's amazing. Because we are hands-on. I mean, me and my mom's relationship, we are very hands-on. And even when she went to Australia, we Marco Polo'd, and because it was nighttime there and daytime here. And she is that support that I need, but there are times where I don't need it. And you you build those other relationships, and it's beautiful. It is. It's beautiful and hard and fascinating and lovely all at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, last question, and then we'll wrap up. But I want you to reflect back and think of, like, this is what I wish I could tell every new mother. Like, whether it's a lesson that you've learned from your own experience or ones that you've seen, but like this is what you need to hear?
There's so much. There's so much. Okay. Um, I think if I have to encapsulate that, it is, it's the difference in uh, physiological birth and a medical birth, I guess. Okay. So you can certainly go along and take and just be the participant in whatever's happening. But physiological birth is a commitment, like physically, mentally, spiritually, and mentally and emotionally kind of go together. So for every new mom, whether they've had a medical birth, you know what I mean, or not, I think what's important and how we connect to ourselves and connect to a higher power and then are able to give and serve others is those three things. It's like it's having information and choosing purposefully, with purpose to take time for those things and to realize that you need them and to nurture them. I mean, that's spiritually, I need nurturing, and I need nurturing emotionally, and I need nurturing physically. And so whatever that looks like, if I'm moving through labor, if I'm moving through, I mean, if I'm not getting those things, I'm not feeling good. I can't move forward. I feel stuck. I feel depressed. I feel low energy. But when I have those things, like I feel so energized and I can help others and I can keep going and I don't need to even eat. I can just keep like, let's go. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I don't know. That's what physiological birth has taught me. And physiological birth is trusting yourself and getting to the point spiritually, emotionally, and physically that you're comfortable with your body, you're comfortable with your soul, you're comfortable with your mind, and you can calm those things and you can utilize those things as like tools. And I don't know, that might be kind of out there.
It's
Theory
not
stuff.
out there.
Not okay.
I would even say, so with the JOYrific chart, we have the version that's a magnet chart, and you put your magnet where you are. And a huge part that Gracie and I have talked about a lot is, I mean, I've talked about it with everybody, but only you can move your magnet. And so wherever you are is okay. And helping to understand how to fill your bucket with that emotional, spiritual, physical, mental space, and being okay with, I'm in a bad mood right now, and this is hard and this hurts, and I'm going to be there, and I'm moving my magnet to that section, and that's okay. And then once you're done in that area, moving it to wherever it is that you are. I'm being helpful now. I'm being kind. I'm being patient. I've worked through it, and it's not forever. And I have ownership of who I am and how I'm going to do things. And it's hard. And we know that. And if it's not hard, be prepared because something hard's coming. And because if it's not hard, you're not learning. You learn in those hard moments.
Yeah. And fears and unknowns are part of all of it. But really in the fall, that's when they really come out, because you've just had this big creation period, right? And now you're in the fall and you have these fears and unknowns. And McKenna pointed out to me after a home birth that I attended, she said, what I think you do, Mom, as a doula, and kind of you just do naturally, is you put people's fears to rest. You're like, it's okay. It's okay if I get up there a day early. I mean, the mother was worried that I was going to arrive and her labor would stop and I was 3 hours away. And I was like, well, I don't care if that happens, because honestly, if that happens and you're in the type of birth you're having, you're not on any time clock for me. I'm not. You have an extra bedroom. I'm going to stay in the bedroom. Like, let's work through the logistics of it. What's the worst case scenario is your baby or your body need a break. So if I get there and your labor pauses, I'm okay with that. And I've seen enough birth and natural birth and physiologic birth, the birth that trusts the body, right, to know that if that's what happens, then that's what you needed. And I'm great with that. Like, I'm not in any hurry. You're not on my time clock. And even with our teenagers, like those fears and those unknowns, just having somebody, maybe they don't want to hear all of your advice, but if they just hear, I'm waiting for you, and whenever you're ready, I'm right here. Like, we're going to pick up. You needed a pause. You needed a break. or as a young mom, or, I'm right here. You need, you need to feel supported and know there's somewhere that you can turn. And sometimes it's an internal prayer, and sometimes it's a sister or a mom or a cousin or a.
Yeah, I love that. I helped my mom through cancer, and that was really hard. And especially when someone in your life that's always been so strong is not. And
Right.
and that's a hard thing to learn from. And so often like that relationship dynamic can change. And there's times where kids are supporting their parents, or there's times where parents are supporting their kids, or you're supporting your friend or cousin or neighbor or whatever it is, and being okay with that uncomfortable awkwardness that I want to solve this, but it's going to take time and it's going to take patience, is part of the process. And it's beautiful if you can understand and be patient with that.
For sure. Yeah.
Christy, we have to do this more. I love this so much.
Totally.
And
Totally.
I think I don't know how to end these ever. I just want to talk for days. And it's beautiful.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you asked me. And I've had the girl that's helping me today with this recording. She's starting a podcast too. So she had said she wants to talk. I think this is just part of that community, right? I mean, it doesn't go away. It doesn't matter that we haven't talked for 6 months or 9 months or a year or whatever, but it doesn't go away. And we need that community, and we need to support each other, and to hold space, and to be okay with other people's cancers, fears, unknowns, I'm like, it's okay. And I think you're right. It is. Anyway, I'm excited to share what this has brought me, because the shift that I am seeing in women specifically is towards feeling empowered and feeling confident in what they're doing, whatever that looks like. And for one of my moms, it was just to get to a 5 or a 6 before she got the epidural, because she got it at a 1.5 last time. Right. So yeah, we can do that. Let's make a plan how we're going to do that. So it's supporting each other wherever they are. I love that you said that even about your kids. Like, it's okay. It's okay to feel yucky. It's okay. Like, put your magnet there. If that's what you're feeling, go there. And that's really just what I'm doing with moms too. It's like, I get you're afraid and it's unknown, but I'm right here and I'm not going to go anywhere still. I mean, yeah, it translates so beautifully. So this shift in consciousness, I think, that I'm seeing with young moms, it's like my daughter's age and their friends' age, and they need this generation of people and women that understand that what they need, and they're willing to support them through it, because a lot of the past generations have been more hands off. And I think to get them where they need to be, we might need to, notch it up. And maybe it isn't so much about sitting in that chair at the office that I was doing for 8 hours a day and feeling like I was making a difference and helping, but that there's other things, and there's deeper things, and there's deeper things that'll make my heart leap when I think about them. And that's where I need to be, and that's where I need to focus on. And we can all find that. We absolutely can.
Yeah. And sometimes there's quality time, and sometimes it's quantity, right? And when you are in a phase where you do need to be in the job working 8 hours a day, then you have that quality time when you can have it. And that's something that my mom has taught me, because she was very, very, very busy. And part of that addictive personality to do the things to the fullest.
Right.
But when she was there, the quality time was there, and it may not have been a lot of quantity of it, but that quality and getting that depth quicker and faster, and that bond and that connection is part of everything we're going through.
I just had a flashback of us in Walmart buying your first bra.
I love it. Oh, look, cue the end music, because I have come, Adelaide, come and see.
Hi, Adelaide.
Oh, do you want to say hi? Oh, I love it. I am recording right now with Christy, and it is my favorite thing. So we really could do this for days, and we'll have you on again. I love that you came and are a part of this. And
thanks for kicking off your JOYrific podcast with me. I love it. I love that you have the brain and the talent to break it all down and to improve and to keep moving forward. And I've always loved that. I love your concepts. I love that you've created them with your mother, and just proves that generational connection, right?
That knowledge which comes from everybody. I love it. Thank you so much, Christy. We will be in touch again, and we'll have you on again. And I've loved this time together. Like the last 40 years. Oh, the laptop almost just came off the counter. Oh, good girl. Bye, Adelaide. All right, I'm going to end the call. Thanks,
right.
Christy.
Love you.
Love
Bye-bye.
you too. See ya.
Thank you. Bye-bye.